Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. According to the Alzheimer's International, in the time it takes me to read this sentence, so about 3 seconds, someone in the world will develop dementia. Here in Vermont, more than 13,000 people are living with Alzheimer's. When thinking about that number, we should also add that 20,000 caregivers dedicate an estimated 28 million hours of unpaid care to look after those who have been diagnosed with this disease. Our focus today is on the allies and advocates of Alzheimer's. Joining me are Megan Polite, the Policy Director for the Vermont chapter of Alzheimer's Association. And next to her is Madeline Colin. She's a UVM graduate student pursuing her master's in health policy. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
And I mentioned the numbers across the world, and that comes from your organization. So what do you guys do?
Right, so thank you for mentioning that, and thank you for helping us to raise awareness, because one of the most important things that we do to help families and people living with Alzheimer's is decrease stigma and make it possible for them to feel less isolated and access resources. So I think you asked about, like, what do these numbers look like in Vermont? And my answer would be, they look like probably almost every family in Vermont. That's how prevalent this is when you take the number of people living with dementia. The number you mentioned is only over 65 and diagnosed, so there's a lot of people outside of that. And then, as you mentioned, that large number of family caregivers. So what we try and do with Alzheimer's Association is provide access to resources, which we're going to talk about. We have some big events, which you and folks have covered before. Our Walks to End Alzheimer's are great way for people to come together and find community, learn about the numbers, celebrate and raise awareness, and then we're going to talk about Advocacy Day and the policy that we do and how bringing our stories to the State House and to elected leaders can help them understand some of the challenges that are particularly acute for people who are caring for someone with a progressive cognitive disease.
Absolutely. And Madeline, you're a health policy major at UVM, and you work also as a community educator. So what does that mean?
Yeah, I absolutely love being a community educator and being able to advance public health. I work with caregivers, individuals with the disease, professionals, and other members of the community to help educate them on management of the disease, the progression, and treatment in order to try and help people really understand what they're dealing with so that they can continue to do what's best for them and their families down the line.
Absolutely. And Megan, Vermont chapter of Alzheimer's Association has a 24/7 helpline, and we'll put it up on the screen in a second, but what does that mean for Vermonters, and who does it help?
Yeah, it helps everybody is the thing. I don't want people to get stuck on helpline. It's answered, there's human being there 24/7, because often people with dementia and caregivers have a second to call or need help out of normal business hours. So I love that. It's a place people can go if they're looking for resources, like I've been diagnosed, what does this mean? Or if they think they're having a memory issue and they want to know, like, is this something I should worry about? It's a place a public health provider could go if they had a question about, like, is there a trial someone might be eligible for? Is there a treatment in the area? It's a place people can access all of our education programs, so all of our support group information for people who are living with the disease or people who are caring for people with the disease, and just an amazing resource. I really encourage people to call it. It's zip code located, so it will connect you, for instance, with your local area agency on aging, and then it'll also connect you to our organization, and we'll do a follow-up. And this number is the same across the entire United States. It's part of what the funds we raise from the walk go to support. So oftentimes, you ask me about what it looks like. Oftentimes, you know, I might be living in Vermont and my sister might be caring for my mom in Arkansas. I'm still a caregiver. I'm still doing her finances. This is a way that you have one resource for the entire country. It provides opportunities to connect families who may not be living in the same place and help them make some of those long-term care decisions about what's the future going to hold and how do we start to plan for that together. So I highly recommend people reach out to that number if they have any questions or want any resources. It is the best starting point.
Absolutely, and you've mentioned caregivers a lot already,
yes.
But we talk all the time here on Across the Fence about the important need to support caregivers as well as the
Right.
people they're caring for. So what are they really in need of?
They're in need of everything, but I would say respite is the biggest thing, because unlike a lot of diseases, Alzheimer's is 24/7 and it gets progressively worse. So just when you think you have a plan in place and you've kind of figured out your schedule and how you're going to go to work and someone's going to step in to care for the person that needs support, they may progress or it may change from day to day. So a lot of what we talk about is the respite that they need, but that comes with a lot of other pieces. Transportation is a huge challenge in Vermont, and social isolation is very, very difficult, both for caregivers and for people with dementia. There's a lot of research on the importance of staying socially connected to avoid getting dementia or slow the progression of dementia, and that can be very, very challenging in some of our more rural communities with transportation for people to have that opportunity to get out of the house and meet other people, have a meal together, do an activity together. So we're often looking at, what kinds of community-based programs can we as the association bolster so that they're appropriate and safe and acceptable, not just for all older people, but for people with dementia. So can we provide some training at senior centers so they're more familiar with how to communicate with people with dementia? Can we have somebody who's helping with an activity have a little more idea of, like, don't just tell people what the steps are, but have them written down, or
Absolutely.
be able to change it in certain ways so it's accessible to everybody. So all of those things make it possible for someone who's caring for someone with dementia to continue to go out in the community with their loved one and to know that they're safe and that they'll have the support that they need to do that.
Sure. Now let's talk about your advocacy work a little bit. What does it mean to both of you to be an Alzheimer's advocate? Madeline, we'll start with you.
I have a family history of Alzheimer's. My mother is a caregiver, and so I've grown up my whole life hearing about Alzheimer's disease and the effects that it has had on my family. And so being an advocate has really allowed me to advocate for my family members and grandparents who are starting to get a little bit older, who potentially could get Alzheimer's, and then also I might get Alzheimer's down the line. And so as an advocate, I've been able to speak with elected leaders about the issue, and I really feel like we have made a difference. And through this process, I've realized how easily accessible these leaders are for us, and they really are able to listen to us. And I feel like as I've met with them at the State House, they have made a difference and they've made a change. And so through advocating, you and other people, and it's actually really easy to get involved in, are able to spread the word about it as well. As you advocate, you get Alzheimer's to be known in the community, and you help other people realize that they're not alone and that they have resources. I was able to be a part of Advocacy Day last year, and I helped organize it, and it was just so powerful to be in the State House with all these other people who had a connection to the disease and who really wanted to make a difference. And you could just feel the emotion in the room, and you could feel where everyone was coming from and how everyone was so touched and was so passionate about the issue.
Absolutely. And Megan, what does advocacy look like to you?
I mean, Madeline really explained it perfectly, and I would just say, it's my job as a policy person to be in the State House and to be providing elected leaders with sort of those statistics that you talked about, and, what is the health impact of caregiving? What is the health impact of social isolation? But what really sticks with legislators when they're wanting to move an issue is the personal story. The story about, I heard how, Madeline, when she got done her classes, had to go home and take care of her grandmother and wasn't able to participate in extracurricular activities, or how challenging it was, when a certain situation happened. That's what sticks with them and helps them have the drive to keep pushing on issues that are complicated. I wrap that around with the statistics and sort of the drier information. So advocates are vitally important. You're seeing us wear purple. Purple is the color of is our Alzheimer's color. It's a mixture of red and blue because we are a nonpartisan organization. This touches everybody, and it's really lovely for folks in the State House to see the advocates coming with their purple. They know exactly what they're going to talk about. And as we started with, a lot of elected leaders are experiencing this in their own families, with their own parents, with their own spouses or grandparents, and so they also can make that personal connection, and it helps both elected leaders and advocates understand that we're just Vermonters trying our best to do what we can to support our communities and to support each other. And so it's a powerful, powerful experience, and I think often people hear advocacy and they get really scared. It's like this big official thing, and they're not going to be prepared. And what we try and tell people is, you are an expert in your life.
Sure.
And that's all we ask advocates to do, is just share a tiny piece of what is it like for you, and let us wrap into like why a program would make that easier, or what is needed from that.
And Advocacy Day this year is April 10th. So you work a lot with policy, as you already said. What kind of policies have you guys been focusing on?
Right, so we're focusing on 3 main policies right now this year. One is very exciting. It's a caregiver tax credit. So similar to the child tax credit, it would be a refundable tax credit that folks that are providing more than 20 hours of care to a loved family member who has a diagnosis would be able to receive on their taxes. We are working on a bill that would ensure that insurance covers access to biomarker testings. We have some new blood testings coming out that are hopefully soon going to be approved by the FDA, and we want to sort of ensure that and for other diseases, cancer and a lot of other diseases, that as science provides opportunities for us to know more and to move more, that our policies are in line with that, so people would be able to utilize it and not find out, oh, you can have this test, but you need to have a lot of money. And then we're talking a lot about the importance of ensuring appropriate reimbursement rates to those who serve our home and community-based providers, serving people living in their homes and their communities who basically require nursing level care, but they're not in a nursing home. And we need to have nurses and other organizations come in and help them, and so we're working on funding for those organizations.
And we're almost out of time, but I quickly want to mention part of the Advocacy Day this year is an art show. So what's kind of the connection between art and Alzheimer's?
Right, I would say the main connection is the show will be in the State House cafeteria the entire month of April. There's all works are done by Vermonters who had dementia, and the main connection is raising awareness that people with dementia are just Vermonters who are contributing in our community, but also using it, excuse me, as a launching point for people to talk about the importance of engagement, enrichment activities, the senses when you're trying to work with someone with dementia, and also how the brain falters. And I know you saw a picture on the screen of the elephant with the pointy ears. So really demonstrating how you can remember one part perfectly, but the other part is just completely inaccessible. And so a lot of different kinds of works that will help people sort of contextualize what does that look like day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. And Madeline, why do you think it's so important to have those on display?
Well, I think that the artwork, and art can really be anything, it's interpretive, but it gives caregivers and family members and individuals with the disease a way to interact with each other and to communicate and to understand each other. And so I think it's so important to show that relationship and to also have that relationship between the caregiver and the partner. And so I feel like as we continue to show this, we can also show other people who are dealing with the disease that this is an option for them to create a better relationship.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you would like any more information about the many numbers that we discussed earlier or Alzheimer Advocacy Day happening on April 10th at the State House, you can visit the website on your screen, alz.org/Vermont. And that's our program for today. My thanks to the crew behind the scenes here at WCAX. I'm Jolie Whitney. This is Across the Fence. Have a good one.